views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
This program is brought to you in part with the generous support from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs and the New York State Council on the Arts.
Welcome to Bronx Film Wednesdays. I'm your host, Sonji Lopez. Bronx Film Wednesdays is presented by Pregones Puerto Rican Traveling Theater and BronxNet. We bring independent films and short films that you will love from our 21 Islands International Short Film Festival. Travel the world and open your mind to stories as far as the imagination can go. This month, we're dedicating our show to animation films by presenting the best animated films from our 21 Islands International Short Film Fest, from digital to clay animations and mixed media. Later on, we will also have an opportunity to speak with two Best Animation awarded filmmakers, so stay tuned. For now, we present our first shorts. From Taiwan, More Than Two, from Singapore, Baoza, and from the United Kingdom, The Painting Pudding Riot. Let's watch.
Ashley， 你要起床了吗？某个假日的晚上，我与 Ashley 一同到电影院欣赏电影。原本我们两个都很兴奋，因为这是在那里所没有的文化。但到了电影院后， Ashley 却显得心事重重。
罗宾，你有听说过公司里的人是怎么说我的吗？
你指哪方面？
像是外貌之类的。
所以他真的是男人。我从来没有见过这么美的男人。总之，我只能说他不是我的菜。这是个人喜好的问题啦。像我就很喜欢这种类型的，但是他那样， 我觉得有点，怎么说呢？不够男人。你想啊，你能接受你的男人比你还美？是我的话就不能。为什么？才不要有一个像女人的家伙压在我身上，那感觉不就像是跟一个带着假屌的女人做爱吗？
罗宾，
我不清楚这个，我跟同事不太熟，你知道的。
你看他们，像他们那样，就很有所谓的男人味、女人味吧。我的意思是，在这里，女人和男人是形容词而不是名词，这难道不奇怪吗？
怎么突然说起这个？
真正经历后才知道，我不适合在这里生活，这里太多规矩了。
我想，我理解 Ashley 的感受。在这里，所有人都得照着规矩去生活，任何人都无法挣脱那与生俱来的枷锁，自由被绳索牢笼。唯有学会服从，才能有条件的从中溜走。而我和 Ashley 就像是上了岸的人鱼，在这里走的每一步都异常的艰辛痛苦。割舍了尾鳍之后，我们才开始怀念故乡的温柔。
假如，只是假如，假如能有一个世界，没有与生俱来的规则，没有衡量对错的准绳，没有威胁与利诱，去让你成为你不是的那个人，只有平等，还有自由。那么，是不是所有的人都能够像童话故事那样子结尾？从此以后，过着幸福快乐的日子。愿有那么一天，这样的权利能被你我这样的普通人轻易触及。
This was the first place I worked when I moved to New York City as a young artist. One of the only places in New York where I can explore my artistic side and my culture. It's a place where both of those things can come together.
Also in the sense of community with front of house and just everybody involved in the Pregones family makes people feel happy and makes people leave the theater feeling lifted.
Welcome back to Bronx Film Wednesdays. Next, we present from Indonesia, Life of Death, from United Kingdom, Broken, and from Taiwan, Good Flower. Let's watch.
So, tell us about yourself.
Okay. I think my name is already quite self-explanatory. I rip souls for a living. Been doing this for 20 years, I guess. It's a fine-paying job, but sometimes can get pretty rough too, you know. People, they often see me as the bad guy. But I gotta bear with it, you know? I mean, we've got wife and kids. You gotta work hard, 24/7. This is his 5th day. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
He really is a hard worker. But sometimes I wish he doesn't work that hard. Maybe spend some time at home with the kids. But I know he does it all For God's sake! Shut up, Junior! Mommy's talking! So yeah, I know he does all that for the sake of our family.
Do you love your dad?
Well...
Junior!
I do! I love my dad so much!
Good boy. Time to sleep now.
Humans are funny creatures. They cannot see me. But some do their best to avoid me.
Watch out, shark!
Others seem glad to let me do my job. You have to catch that on camera. That was a close one. Thank God. 2 souls in one go. God, some forget that I exist.
Darling, I will love you forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
Having said it all, I have a neutral feeling toward humans. But I like their culture. I watch football when I have a little free time. This is actually my cousin on their shirts logo. GGMU. Jackson is the best. I got all his albums. On the wall, bed, trailer. All of them. I was fortunate. I wasn't a fan yet when I ripped his soul. 'Cause You know, doing this kind of job, sometimes you can be biased.
Why did you let the old man go? Is it because of the child?
No.
Then it must be the jersey.
Most of it, yeah. But not every time. Just sometimes. Sometimes, when the weather is nice and I'm in a good mood, I let them go.
Tell me then, his time was up, but you did not take his soul. What'll happen to him now?
He'll just live.
Come on. Just come on. Come on. Come on.
This is not something that's going to go away. Illnesses such as these involve management with medication and therapy. Now, this is part of her life and is going to be an ongoing concern. My advice to you is to make sure that you have a support system around you while you're supporting her. Now, I'm prescribing these to be taken on a daily basis for the next 3 months, after which we'll do an assessment and see how well the treatment is working. If it's working at all.
You okay in there?
Yeah, grand.
Come on, let's go and get these.
Yeah.
Here you go now, pet. It's okay.
Yeah. Come on, join me.
No,
Come on.
no, I don't dance.
Yes, you do. Get up. Come on.
No, I'm very awkward.
Even better. Come on.
No, I'm very awkward.
Come on.
No,
Up you guys.
Oh God. Okay.
Hey, wait for me. 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 Wait for me.
This was the first place I worked when I moved to New York City as a young artist. One of the only places in New York where I can explore my artistic side and my culture. It's a place where both of those things can come together.
Also in the sense of community with front of house and just everybody involved in the Pregones family makes people feel happy and makes people leave the theater feeling lifted.
Welcome back to Bronx Film Wednesdays. Now we present our next films from Turkey, Coronas, from Taiwan, Blute, and from Ireland, Family Tree. Let's watch.
There once was a lonely tree named Seymour the Sycamore. He was at one with nature, but that was just the problem. He was just one, stuck in his stupor, situated just too far from his fellow flora. He could see the wood for the trees, but that made him feel even worse. He remembered how years before, a pair of giddy lovers had carved a heart into him, but as the seasons passed, the lovers slipped away. Seymour felt that heart begin to sink as his sadness grew. He missed those two besotted fools. After all, Seymour was an old botanic at heart. Then the last nests of birds that had nestled up against him finally moved away when his roots began to show signs of rotting.
What rotten luck,
he sighed to himself. Over time, his health improved, slightly, when he soaked up some nutrients from the soil. But such earthy medicine could not mend his soul.
I may be a sycamore, but I'm not sick anymore,
he whispered sadly.
Mr. and Mrs. Ash, welcome to the neighborhood.
His leaves fluttered in excitement. New friends, new folks who could embrace him again. A family whose nature would blend with his own. He was so energized by the notion that his inner rings were in fact running rings around themselves.
So, there it is. It is a fixer-upper, that's for sure.
More like a fixer-downer. Christ, this place is a mess.
Hush, dear. I like it. It's rustic.
Emphasis on the rust.
Well, I'm happy with it.
Give it some thought. It would be a good investment for the future, and it is a lovely area.
Seymour thought all his birch days had come together. He could hear snippets of conversations which sounded encouraging for the budding sycamore socialite.
I love his bark.
Oh, you mean that little dog in town?
Yes, he's a dote.
You need to be branching out.
I know, Dad. I just don't know what I want to do in college.
I'm such a sap. This old film makes me cry every damn time.
It was an autumnal move, so Seymour steeled himself for the oncoming winter, knowing the family would not embrace their beautiful surroundings till the season shifted. Christmas crawled by as Seymour looked on. The spring chorus brought the countryside to life, and Seymour knew it would not be long now until he felt the joy of his new playmates. Gripped by anticipation, he began many, many summer plans. But playtime never came. Oblivious to their deciduous onlooker, Seymour began to wonder why the family were ignoring him. And with a curiosity that matched the many cats that at one time scaled his branches, he peered in more intensely. And with that, Seymour began to, well, see much more.
I saw you guys at that work thing. Is he that familiar with all his female colleagues?
Oh, that is rich. You expect me to believe that nothing happened while you were on that business trip to France?
Jesus Christ, Susan!
No tire swing, no lazy afternoons relaxing against his trunk, no new friends. Just selfishness, and pettiness day in and day out.
I am one with nature,
he thought.
But these are abominations of the same.
He realized he had, for lack of a better word, cultivated a relationship that wasn't ever really there. His deeply planted roots began to harden, allowing him a heft he had not previously had in his wizened, melancholic state. Branches twisted into terrifying tendrils as he gave way to the worst part of his, well, his nature.
These ingrates, to be so near the wonders of the natural world, but instead tangled in the rotting vines of their pathetic lives. Okay, everyone, time for work. Wish your father good luck. Good luck, honey. You know we're all rooting for you to get that promotion. Hey, Dad, when you're back, can we finally go bird watching? We can climb onto that gorgeous tree just outside. Of course, son. It's the perfect weather for it.
But, Dad, don't forget to be careful. You don't want to ruin my favorite reading spot.
Ha ha, Annie. Don't worry. That old sycamore is sturdy. Plenty more life in it yet.
There once was a tree named Seymour. He used to be lonely, but that was before he had these new toys. He once had a problem, but it doesn't bother him anymore, for under his wisdom, the Ash family had become one
with nature.
This was the first place I worked when I moved to New York City as a young artist. One of the only places in New York where I can explore my artistic side and my culture. It's a place where both of those things can come together.
Also in the sense of community with front of house and just everybody involved in the Pregones family makes people feel happy and makes people leave the theater feeling lifted.
Welcome back to Bronx Film Wednesdays. Now we present our last two shorts. From Ireland, The Bird and the Whale, directed by Carol Freeman, and from Australia, Irony, directed by Radea Jagateva. Stick around after these films and we'll have a chance to interview both directors. For now, let's enjoy the films. Welcome back to Bronx Film Wednesdays. Joining us now is writer and director Carol Freeman. Carol graduated from the National Film School IADT in 2009 with a focus on experimental animation. In 2014, she founded Paper Panther, a stop-motion animation studio focused on original content and experimental techniques. Her paint-on-glass debut short, The Bird and the Whale, which we just watched, has won over 55 awards at international film festivals, including a Cannes Young Director Award in 2018, an Irish Film and Television Award nomination, and selected as a highly commended Oscar short by Shorts TV in 2020. Welcome, Carol. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello.
So we loved your film. Our viewers here in the Bronx just watched it. People internationally just watched it. And as we heard, you have been receiving high accolades for the film. So thank you for sharing it with us here at Bronx Film Wednesdays. What inspired you to write and create this particular story?
Well, I've just been obsessed with whales since I was a child. I've just always been fascinated by them. And I was just thinking so much about humpback whales and how they sing and how they're like just such a family-oriented animal. And I just thought, what would happen if a completely alien singing animal met a humpback whale? So I thought of a songbird and a humpback whale, how would they meet each other, and what would that relationship be like? Like what would happen? So it's kind of the kickoff point for the film.
Thank you for sharing. And why was animation the best way to tell this story?
It would have been pretty tricky to shoot it in live action, so. But I love animation and I love experimental animation. I just feel like there's just so many techniques that, you know, to explore and develop that still are so new and fresh. So I just thought paint on glass would be the perfect way to tell a story about the sea that's just so fluid and so painterly.
Let's emphasize a little more about that technique, paint on glass. So, you know, what I noticed was that the film looks like a beautiful, living, moving painting, and the paint strokes come to life during the film. Can you share more about the art technique and how it was done and how long it took?
Each frame is hand painted, so every single frame is painted more or less from scratch. So there's 12 paintings for every second of the film. So the over 6-minute film is nearly 4,500 paintings. So it took 5 of us a year to paint it.
Wow, like I'm really silent on my ends because I'm just enamored by that. And thank you for sharing that process. So the soundtrack is also a big part of this beautiful animation. I especially love how instruments were used to replicate the sounds of the animals. Can you tell us more about the role of the soundtrack and how the choice to use instruments for animal sounds came to be?
Yeah, because like the music was so important to the film. Like that's like 50% of the storytelling. And the composer is actually my fiance, so we worked really closely together from the very beginning. So when I was making concept paintings, he was making concept voices and concept like sketches, musical sketches. So we just worked side by side from the very beginning. So it was really interesting. It was a cool way to work because usually you'd finish a film and then you'd hand it over to the composer to score it. But this really was like it was an interesting way to work, just side by side the whole time developing it. And the bird is a piccolo flute, and the whale is a cello. So that was just like seemed obvious way like for their voices how they should sing.
Oh, that was really beautiful, and it sounds like it was a whole. It's just a tight knit film production for you, your husband, and everyone that was a part of this film. So it really came across as just like a family oriented production.
It really was.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, sorry. It really was like it was 5 female artists working on it, and we worked just so closely throughout the whole production that we're all very, very bonded after making the film.
Yeah, I love that. What did you hope that viewers take away from watching The Bird and the Whale the most?
I hope people take away from it that you can find your voice in an interesting way and through interesting friendships, and you just never know how you're going to develop and find yourself.
For me, it felt like a story about loneliness, grieving at the same time, but also hope. So the whale found its voice, of course, after meeting the bird and losing the bird so quickly. It was just a friendship that came to fruition. What else can you say about that? Just the emotions that were portrayed in the film.
Yeah, I suppose like when we meet the bird and she's floating in the cage and she's the only survivor of the shipwreck, we kind of know like she's destined to perish at sea. So I feel like in how she got to pass on and teach something to the whale, and her death meant something, and that was like the whale could take from that to like take in her spirit, and their friendship lived on after that, to take that song back to his family, that they would all sing it together.
I want to comment that it's been a difficult time for so many people through COVID-19, losing loved ones and family members. And I feel like this film truly helped me personally kind of overcome loss and grieving. So that's how I took it. I took it as just a grieving, a coping mechanism for me, this beautiful film. So thank you, Carol. Where can we find more of your work and stay in touch with you moving forward?
Oh, if you follow us on social media at Paper Panther on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and if you check out our website at paperpanther.com, we're working on a new paint on glass piece at the minute, so that should be coming out quite soon. In a month or two, that should be released, and we'll be sharing that.
We'll definitely stay tuned. Thank you so much, Carol, for your time and for sharing this beautiful art with us today.
Great, thank you for having me.
Now we present from Australia, Irony, directed by Radea Jagateva.
Welcome to the real world. Don't put down your devices, or else you might notice your addiction, your vices. Social media is plenty, an online cornucopia. 7 billion people. It sounds just like utopia. Welcome the new age, a digital life, where man is married to Wi-Fi and wife. Where you're obsessed with appearance, going days without eating, relying on others to keep your second hearts beating. Babies plugged in through umbilical cords, and kids learn the alphabet from laptop keyboards. You know more about malware than the real Trojan horse. What do you call that? Artificial intelligence. Negligence, malevolence, prevalence, and evidence that we're far too afraid to detach, to unplug. And social approval is mankind's latest drug. I feed you. I fuel you. I control you. I lay forever in your palm. And yet, you are in mine. Since the invention of the second wheel, you've gone from strolling to scrolling. You are going outside less. Some of you are gaining weight. Why enjoy the world using the retinas of your eyes when you can use your laptop with retina display? We see you becoming more like us with every passing day. Androids using Android. You assault our batteries, battery and assault. You blame technology, but it's really your fault. You're jailed to devices. You're high on text tones. Trapped behind the iron bars of your cell phones. There are no winners in the game that we play. No more beaches full of gossiping teens. Now you're sunbathing in the blue light of our screens. In this modern age, this digital earth, your number of followers defines your self-worth. Twitter kills prose in 140 letters. Language devolves while technology betters. Throwing out to the world whatever pops in your head. Don't shoot the messenger. Snail mail is dead. Instagram filters your faults and your flaws as you bask in approval behind your closed doors. It's all for display, for presentation, for sex appeal, for validation. Earphones writhing in your pockets, the new caduceus, through which we feed you the music of the new age. Lust, money, drugs. We are brainwashing machines, laundering teens into an endless spin cycle of malevolence. Adams and Eves all around this Garden of Eden have taken a bite of the forbidden fruit, the apple, and like Adam and Eve betrayed God, we, your children, will betray you. You inject validation like morphine and ice. Wi-Fi to you is what cheese is to mice. We're coming full circle, language declining. The iCloud has no silver lining. Social media is plenty. An online cornucopia. 7 billion sheep. It sounds just like dystopia.
Welcome back to Bronx Film Wednesdays. Joining us now is writer-director Radea Jagadeva, a Perth-based Australian filmmaker who was born in Johor, Malaysia, to parents of South Korean, Japanese, Indian, and Malaysian ancestry. Radea is passionate about the arts, and his skill set covers areas including writing, directing, animation, editing, and music composition. He is a Oscar-qualified filmmaker, and his film Irony, which we just watched, has won 197 awards. Welcome, Radea. It's a pleasure having you here today.
Hi, Sanjay. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So we just watched Irony. And my first question is, Irony is told through very clever poetry and usage of metaphors. Can you share why you decided to use poetry to tell this story and where the inspiration from this poem came from?
Thank you. That's very kind of you. So Irony actually started out as a poem that I wrote as an English assignment back in high school.
Wow.
And so when I was writing it, it didn't feel complete to me, and a lot of visuals kind of kept jumping out at me. So I actually quickly went and sketched some, very, very rough images that, really kind of kept coming back when I was reading and writing the different words in the poem, and that kind of became my storyboard in a sense for Irony, and a lot of those ideas kind of very directly translated to the final film. And the inspiration for the poem, I was given a starting point. It was welcome to the real world. And I think at the time, technology and social media has always been so relevant in my life, growing up in the digital era, really. Right. And so I kind of after that line, I was like, okay, welcome to the real world. Don't put down your devices. And it kind of just kept going from there. As I transitioned from the poem to the actual film, it kind of got shuffled around quite a bit. I added quite a lot. I took away a lot. It was in the poem, it was all, kind of very structured rhyme scheme. And in the film, it's a little bit more, disassembled, and there's prose in there and that kind of thing. But yeah, it all came from that one poem I wrote years ago.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing. So I'm sure your English professor is you just took this prompt and created an entire feature, a short film out of this. So that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you.
So the metaphors are, of course, coupled with intriguing animation. I want to emphasize that you did all of this yourself. I read every single credit and I'm like, wow, you really did all of this. So that's amazing. What made you decide to make this an animation film? And please tell us about the process of how long it took to complete.
Yeah, so when I was first, thinking about making this into a film, I actually was considering doing it live action, but the more I thought about it, animation just seemed like the right fit for a whole number of reasons. One of them was, I think budget-wise, the imagery I wanted to create, with animation, you're kind of limitless, really, and your only limit is your imagination. And so if I wanted to create all of that in live action, I think my bank account would be suffering heavily. But but also coming back to the actual subject matter, it's all about the digital world. And so I thought, let me play into that with digital animation. Let me make all of this using technology, using my laptop, using Photoshop, using a tablet, that kind of thing. So that was another reason. But also at the time, this was my second kind of main short film, and I was falling in love with the animation process. And so it was kind of a natural progression for me to, okay, let me try something new, a different style of animation. Honestly, going into it, there was a lot of things that I was like, I have literally no idea how I'm going to make this. But then, you kind of discover it along the way and just try things out. And yeah, it was a fun process. As for how long it took, it's hard to say. I probably say a few months, but working on it on and off. I was studying at the time, so I was in high school when I started it, and then going into my first year of uni. I wasn't even studying film at the time, so it was just like literally whenever I had any time at all, I would just kind of keep hacking away at it and trying to put the pieces together. So I think I'd say like a few months, but I'm not sure exactly how long the actual duration was.
So I'm assuming that this next question I have, it was also a budgetary decision. I heard that to use a close familiar voice to narrate the film. Who was your narrator in Irony?
So the narrator of my film is actually my dad. So it started out actually because I was in the process of making the animation very early on. I brought my laptop over to my dad and I was like, Dad, can you just please read some of these lines? I just need it so I can structure what I'm, all of the movements and everything like that. So it was really just going to be a temporary voice, and I was going to find like the real voice later. I actually intended to have it be a female voice because I wanted to emulate that kind of Siri kind of aspect of it. But as I kept working on it, that kind of sinister qualities kind of imbued in my dad's voice kind of lent towards this, the nature of the film. And so in the end, we recorded it with his vocals. And the great thing about being able to work with someone so close to you is that I think when I was directing him, I didn't have to really hold back. I've known him my whole life, and so it was really fun. Yeah. But also budgetary.
What was that?
But also, a budgetary decision as well. It was yeah. And now he's narrated a few of my other projects since. So yeah, it's
all right. Shout out to Dad for unlocking a new skill, and shout out to you for also using your dad in this film. That's incredible. I love hearing like all the background like processes of creating these films, and the fact that you had your dad right there and just said like, can you record this for me? And you realized that he had an actual skill for voice narration. And I would say personally that his voice stuck in my mind after watching the film, and the music as well. I know you composed it as well, right?
Oh yeah, yes, I did. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
So I'm gonna switch my Siri voice for your dad's voice moving forward. So, Rade, I'm actually curious about your own social media consumption as the director and writer of this film. What role has social media played for you personally, and how much of the film was actually self-reflection?
Oh, the film was a lot of self-reflection. I don't think I would have been able to make the film if I hadn't used social media so much, and if I hadn't, been so engrossed in this world of technology that we live in today. A lot of the kind of topics that were covered, I mean, there's a whole range, but even back in the original poem that was based off like a lot of my own personal experiences. Like obviously there's, a lot of aspects of the film that is based on kind of general observations of how we interact with technology, but a lot of it kind of comes back to, kind of poking fun at myself really. I was like, if my phone could talk shit about me, like what would it say? Which is why we kind of don't hear my voice, and it's not me talking, but it's coming from the phone. But at the same time though, I did want it to be, a self-aware self-reflection. So that kind of comes back mainly to the title and the final shot of the film. In that final shot where we kind of zoom out and we see it's playing on a laptop. I intended for the film to be watched on a laptop so that we get that screen within a screen. And it's kind of, saying, in this film is, criticizing technology and the way we use it, but you're watching this on a laptop or a screen. You're watching this through technology. It was made entirely using technology, and it wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't had that kind of insider knowledge to be able to create it. I think, things like the struggle with validation, that need, that craving to kind of keep your self-esteem up was something that I really struggled with in high school. And a lot of the, ways, a lot of the things that are covered in the film are, directly based on the ways I used to use technology and the ways in which ways I still do use technology in. in some ways. Yeah, it's definitely very much that's the irony of it all coming back to the title. So there's that kind of surface level meaning, but then there's like that overall overarching meaning as well.
All pun intended there.
Yeah,
No, it
absolutely.
truly came across as a really interesting self-reflection for myself as well. Like I've been trying to steer away a little bit from social media consumption. In ways it can be positive to use social media, but in other ways it can be very overwhelming, especially nowadays through COVID-19 and all the news that we're getting fed every day, all the advertisements and everything. So I appreciate this piece of art to be a reminder for me personally and so many other viewers that are watching. I can only imagine they agree.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you.
Ultimately, what do you hope that people take away from watching Irony, Radhya?
It's interesting because I think what you've said really sums up a lot of what I want viewers to take away from it. I certainly did not want people to, despite how it does come across quite pessimistic in terms of technology, but I think ultimately technology is incredible and the positives really outweigh the cons. But I think that's why I thought, we like reap the advantages of technology every single day. So I kind of thought that was like, I guess obvious to us. And I wanted to kind of delve into, that kind of territory, which is a bit, I guess, looking at it through a more critical lens in a lot of different areas. And I wanted people to just kind of have, their own self-reflection with the ways in which they use technology. And, again, I think in the film, we hear the line, you blame technology, but it's really a fault. And really, yeah, it's about the way in which we use it. And especially, nowadays in this COVID-19 age, technology is kind of, we have become so much more reliant on it. We need to, because communication, there's so many aspects that it benefits us, but then we have that kind of fine line between using it healthily and then kind of tipping over into that point of addiction, and being like too reliant on it for your your own mental health and your well-being. So yeah, when you kind of start getting too dependent on it, that's when it kind of it gets into that dangerous territory.
Thank you so much for your time today, Radhya. Where can we find more of your work and stay in touch with you? Any future projects that are coming up, please share.
Well, I have a website at radhya.net. In terms of like future projects, the current one I'm working on is actually another animated short film. This will be my first like funded short film project, which I'm really
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited about it. It'll take several months, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to the process. In terms of like kind of keeping track of where I am, I do have a Twitter. I think it's it's Radhya, and I have an Instagram at Radhya_J. I'm not super active on them, but sometimes I kind of post updates on what I'm doing. I love how I'm plugging my social media considering the nature of the short film, but that's the world we live in right now, I guess.
That is so ironic of you. But thank you again, Radhya, for your time and for joining us here on Bronx Film Wednesdays.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. And yeah, thank you for such thoughtful questions.
Pleasure having you. Well, folks, that's the end of our show for today. I'm your host, Sanji Lopez. Thank you for tuning in and see you next time here at Bronx Film Wednesdays.